On paper, this looks like a foregone conclusion. At the 2026 U.S. Figure Skating Championships, Madison Chock and Evan Bates won again. That's the headline. But for anyone who actually watched the ice on the night of January 10th in St. Louis, the headline is an insult. Because this didn't feel like a win. It felt like a riot. It was their 7th national title, their 5th in a row, a milestone that officially moves them past the legendary Merrill Davis and Charlie White for the most ice dance titles in American history. But as the final beats of their music faded into the roar of a standing ovation, the expression on Madison Chock's face was not one of triumph. It was one of shock. She turned to Evan and whispered one word: surreal. At 33 and 36 years old, they are not supposed to be getting faster. They are not supposed to be hitting personal bests. And they definitely are not supposed to be the most terrifying presence in the world of ice dance. But as they head toward the Milano Cortina Olympics, as the oldest U.S. Olympic figure skaters in nearly a century, Madison Chock and Evan Bates are doing something no one in the history of the sport has dared to do. They are peaking at the exact moment the world expected them to retire. If you think this 7th title was just about a record, you are not paying attention. This was a warning. For over a decade, the record held by Merrill Davis and Charlie White was considered the gold standard. 6 titles, a benchmark of consistency and dominance that defined the modern era of American skating. In January 2026, Chock and Bates did not just reach that benchmark, they ran right through it. They finished with a staggering total score of 228.87. But the real story is in the math. In the free dance, they posted 137.17, a score powered by a massive 77.89 technical mark. To put that in perspective, that is a score usually reserved for teams in their early 20s with fresh knees and infinite stamina. For Chock and Bates to hit that number in their 15th season together is a technical anomaly. But their dominance is not just about the points, it is about the gap. They finished 15 points ahead of the silver medalists. In a discipline like ice dance, where winners are often decided by hundredths of a point, a 15-point lead is not a victory, it is a chasm. Evan Bates reflected on it afterward with a level of raw honesty we rarely see from champions. He reminded the press that their journey was non-linear. He talked about the 5-year gap between their first title in 2015 and their second in 2020. Most teams would have fractured in that half-decade. They would have looked at the rising stars, the younger siblings, and the new flavors of the month, and decided their time had passed. Chock and Bates did the opposite. They used that drought, which lasted 1,800 days, to rebuild their foundation. They realized that if they wanted to survive 15 years in this sport, they could not just be skaters. They had to be survivors. If their 2025 Queen routine was a celebration, their 2026 Paint It Black free dance is a confrontation. Set to an orchestral version of the Rolling Stones hit from the Westworld soundtrack, the routine is a dark, aggressive blend of flamenco and paso doble. In a move that shocked traditionalists, Chock and Bates decided to reverse the traditional roles. Madison Chock is not the delicate flower being led, she is the matador. Evan Bates is not just the partner, he is the bull. The choreography designed with Spanish dancer Antonio Najaro is taut and polished. It grows in intensity for 4 minutes without ever losing control. From the opening combination curve lift, which earned an event-high 15.70 points, to the final diagonal step sequence, every movement feels like a deliberate choice to reject the safe veteran path. Most teams at this stage in their career choose music that feels nostalgic. They play to the judges' love of classical romance. They skate like they are protecting a legacy. Chock and Bates are skating like they want to burn that legacy down and build something more dangerous in its place. The visual of Madison using her skirt as a matador's cape in the final seconds is not just a gimmick. It is a symbol of agency. In an Olympic season where everyone else is trying to not make mistakes, Chock and Bates are the only ones taking a high-concept artistic risk. They are not just performing for the judges, they are directing a film on ice. There is a biological reason why most ice dancers retire before 30. The unison required for a world-class twizzle or a stationary lift demands a level of micro-calibration that is exhausting. When you have been together for 15 years, your bodies start to carry the literal weight of those thousands of hours. But for Chock and Bates, those 15 years have become their greatest technical advantage. In St. Louis, they hit 7 level 4 elements. Every single element they performed received a grade of execution of 2.25 or higher. This is what we call refined unison. It is a level of symmetry that can only be achieved through a decade and a half of shared muscle memory. They do not have to look at each other to know exactly where the other person's center of gravity is. They are grounded and present in a way that younger teams, like the rising Emilia Zingas and Vadim Kolesnik, simply cannot emulate yet. But there is a cost to this longevity. Evan Bates admitted that he is trying not to get too emotional, but the nostalgia of this 15-year journey is welling up. They are the last of a generation. They are the bridge between the Merrill Davis era and the future of the sport. They are carrying the history of American ice dance on their shoulders, and instead of buckling, they are using that weight to gain more traction on the ice. They are skating side by side, but they are also skating for everyone who helped them get to the top rafters of that arena. In June 2024, Madison and Evan finally were married. While fans loved the fairy tale ending, the skating world watched for a different reason. Historically, when a duo gets married, the competitive fire often starts to dim. The partnership is secure, the personal goal is met, and the grueling travel of the Grand Prix circuit starts to look less appealing. But for Chock and Bates, marriage seemed to unlock a new level of competitive freedom. In their 2026 press cycle, they have not talked about sacrifice. They have talked about cherishing. Madison's line about relishing the love of the fans sounds like a woman who knows the end is near and is determined to taste every second of it. They are training at the Ice Academy of Montreal, the most elite environment in the world. They are surrounded by the best, but they are clearly the anchors of the squad. This personal bond has created a zero-fear zone. They are not afraid of a stumble. They are not afraid of a bad score. They have each other regardless of the result. When you remove the fear of failure from an athlete, you create a monster. You create a team that can skate to Lenny Kravitz in the rhythm dance with swagger-heavy energy that makes the rest of the field look like they are trying too hard. You create a team that can turn a foregone conclusion into a coronation. The countdown is now officially on. When the U.S. Olympic team was announced on January 11th, Chock and Bates were at the top of the list. They are heading to Italy as the gold medal favorites, and for the first time in their lives, they are not the underdogs. In 2014, they were 8th. In 2018, they were 9th. In 2022, they were 4th, the most heartbreaking position in sports. That 4th place finish in Beijing is the hidden motor behind this entire 2026 run. They stood on the podium for the team event, but they never got their individual medal. They watched as the Russian doping scandal delayed their ceremony for 2 years. They felt the taint of a victory that did not feel like a victory. Milan is their chance to fix the narrative. They are entering the games as the reigning 3-time world champions. They are on a 13-competition win streak. They have nobody within sight in the domestic field. But the real test will be the internal one. As the oldest skaters on the team, they have to manage a body that needs more recovery, and a mind that is constantly being pulled toward the finish line. Evan's quote about building momentum into Milan is not just athlete speak. It is a tactical plan. They are rolling toward February 6th, and they do not plan on deviating from the path. Success in 2026 is not a gold medal. For Madison Chock and Evan Bates, the win already happened in St. Louis. The 7th title was not just a record for the history books. It was a message to the next generation of skaters that a career does not have an expiration date. They showed that you can be 15 years into a partnership and still find something new to say. You can be a married couple in your mid-30s and still out-hustle the teenagers. You can be the directing force of your own career. In a sport that constantly tries to tell athletes when their story should end, Chock and Bates are the ones holding the pen. When they take the ice in Italy for the final time, the outcome will matter. Medals always do. But the legacy is already set in stone. They are the most decorated ice dance team in the history of the United States, not because they were the youngest or the fastest, but because they were the ones who stayed. They stayed through the droughts. They stayed through the disappointment. And they stayed until they became a record that might never be broken again. 6 months from now, when the records do not feel fresh anymore and the scores blur together, this January night will still matter. Because it captures the moment when two athletes realize that the most powerful move in a career is not holding on tighter, it's letting go. And in 2026, Madison Chock and Evan Bates are letting go, right into the history books.